Sure, we all love a nice long, difficult career mode save, but sometimes we just want an easy season where we'll cruise to silverware. Today, we'll be looking at which teams are the most overpowered when compared to the league that they're in. Any of these teams could be a great career mode save, maybe if you're new to the game or if you're experimenting with tactics or some other part of career mode. So how are we using data science to judge which teams are the most overpowered? Well, I've taken the 15 highest rated players from each team, I've averaged their overalls, and I've compared this value to the average value of every other team in their league. If we look at the difference between the first and second best teams in each league, we can see which one is the most overpowered and then compare this to the average, and finally we have the list that we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to look at the most interesting saves to begin with, before finally revealing what the easiest possible FIFA save is. So let's begin. Surprisingly, Scandinavia features quite highly a couple of times on our list. If you're interested in playing in Europe, while also having a challenging time playing in the Champions League or Europa League, while also dominating your domestic league, you should definitely check out both Malmo in Sweden and Copenhagen in Denmark. Malmo is actually the fourth most dominant team on this list, while Copenhagen comes in 7th place. There's a lot of comparisons between Liverpool in England and Malmo in Sweden. In 1979, Malmo lost to Nottingham Forest in what would now be known as the Champions League final. To date, they're the only club from Sweden that's ever got this far in the Champions League. But it's not the only thing that Malmo are known for. They're also known for their amazing youth academy. A number of Swedish internationals have started their career at the Sky Blues, the most famous probably being Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Similarly to Liverpool, they had a bit of a downturn in the early 2000s and they've had a resurgence over the past decade where they've won the league 7 times since 2010. Like Malmo, FC Copenhagen has produced some of the most notable players who've gone on to represent countries all around the world. Some of the most hyped current Danish players, including Victor Christiansen and Rasmus Højlund, started their careers at FC Copenhagen. The club has been a constant presence in the European competitions, regularly qualifying for either the Champions League or the Europa League. Both of these teams should easily be finishing in the top 2 first season, but realistically, you'll probably be finishing first every single year. If you pump as much money into your academy as you can, you'll be playing fairly realistically because both teams love to bring through new talents. By the way, if you're interested in videos like this in the future, make sure you subscribe because I've been learning R to help me find the statistically most interesting career mode saves, and I'll be sharing them here as soon as I find them. Anyway, let's say that the minor leagues in Europe aren't for you. China and Argentina both have a dominant team as well. River Plate is the 6th most dominant team I found, while Shandong in China are the 8th best. While I've not played in either of these leagues too much, I'm sure they're fun for starting off a journeyman career. So that's a snapshot of some of the top 10. Let's move on to the top 3. It's not going to be that surprising honestly, because I'm sure most of you would have guessed at least 2 of the top 3 before the video even started, but I was surprised to see how far ahead some of these teams were to others in their league. So of course, the top 2 leagues are the Bundesliga and Ligue 1. Paris Saint-Germain and Bayern Munich are so far clear of Marseille and Borussia Dortmund that it's a bit of a joke. Surprisingly though, the Dutch Eredivisie came in 3rd. This is because I was using slightly old data that came from the middle of February, and since then Ajax have been caught up slightly by PSV, but I was still shocked to see they were 5% better than PSG at the time I got my data from. This means if you want a really easy career mode save, go for one of PSG or Bayern. I'm sure basically everyone who started watching this video knew that PSG and Bayern were very easy saves, so we're not going to spend too much time talking about them. With both teams, you get ridiculous squads that's capable of winning the Champions League in Season 1, you also get a massive budget to improve it even further, and you've got players that are full of potential just outside of your bench. If you're learning the game, these are the 2 teams that you need to be beginning your career modes with. If you've played for a few hours and you want a slightly harder save, why don't you look at some of the leagues that have 2 leading teams with the rest trailing behind them. I'll include Ajax in this, with PSV being slightly worse overall, but both teams are still very good and quite fun to use on career mode. Celtic and Rangers is an obvious example of this, but Celtic are actually the 5th most dominant team in the game. The gap to Rangers is a bit bigger than I expected. The gap to the next set of teams is massive. Hearts are somewhere between the 2nd and 4th best, with Rangers and Celtic both averaging mid-70s for their overalls, Hearts exactly at 70, and the 4th best team Hibs at a lowly 67 overall. This gap of around 8 overall means Celtic and Rangers are going to absolutely crush the league, but you will have competition with the other team being there for you to battle against. So which leagues from the top 10 haven't we mentioned yet? Well, Man City's gap over Liverpool puts the Premier League as the 10th most dominant league, and Real Madrid's lead over Barcelona is 9th. Sure, they're quite big gaps, both of these teams are absolutely full of superstars, but the high average ability of the league really reduces the value of the gap compared to smaller leagues. This basically means despite their best team being quite a bit ahead of the second best team, the other teams in the league are actually competitive with the best team. Compare this to some of the other leagues like the French league, for example. PSG should crush basically every other team in the league. If you're interested in the exact opposite of this, so you want the leagues that are maybe the closest together, we might make a full video on this in the future, but check out Romania. Cluj and FCSB are only 0.03 overall apart on average, which is the same as one player in the starting 11 being one overall higher, and the rest of the players in the team being exactly the same rating. Third place Craiova is only 0.07 behind these two teams, so all three of these teams are going to basically be fighting the exact same squads for the exact same competitions. Norway, Portugal and Ireland all also come close to parity when it comes to title rivals, but why don't you let me know in the comments which your favourite league to play is on FIFA? I think my favourite league on FIFA is probably the English Championship or the second division. Burnley and Watford are the two best teams in this league, but they're not actually that much better than the rest of the league, so this means they're the 25th least dominant league on the game. If you want an idea for playing in the Championship, why don't you check out Sheffield United, because I do think they have potential to be a super long-term save. Because Championship managers aren't in the game, you could even retire someone like Billy Sharp and try and manage the Blades with that. But looking at their squad, they've got potentially Premier League midfield already with Fleck, Norwood and Berger. Anil Ahmedhodzic is actually a former Malmo player who we talked about earlier in this video and has potential to be one of the best centre-backs in the world. Sheffield United also have the record of producing a lot of national team players. They've got about the same amount of players in the England squad at the minute as Man United, Arsenal and Spurs academies combined. But even better, they have a real stadium on the game, they're having a bit of a financial difficulty at the minute, and they actually do have a really fun squad despite not being one of the two best teams in the league. So if you're interested in doing a really close career mode in an interesting league, I would really recommend you give Sheffield United a go. As we mentioned before, let me know who your favourite teams, your favourite leagues, what you think the most dominant or easy or difficult leagues are to play on FIFA career mode below. Recently on my second channel, which you should check out if you're interested in full-length FIFA videos where I just play the game, I did a full Road to Glory with Lincoln City. We're just starting Season 2 now. I'm going to record and upload that in the next couple of weeks, so make sure you should go over there, check out Season 1 and subscribe if you're interested in that kind of thing. I'll put a link to it on screen right now, so check out that playlist if you're interested in watching some full FIFA career mode videos. But I'm going to say thank you all for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video, you learned something, maybe about which teams you should pick if you're new to the game. But thank you all for watching, I'll see you soon. Cheers and goodbye.